if you're going to go retail, I do not recommend just targeting one or two big boxes. A, it's going to be very hard to get in. B, even if you get in, you introduce that kind of risk. So you can hedge your risk by being in a lot of retail. The other piece is you should be really proactively trying to not get kicked out. And that's where people, when they say it's a relationships business, I think this is what they mean, where you need to have a relationship with your buyer.
You're watching the Marketing Misfits with Norm Farrar and Kevin King.
All right, we are back. Another Marketing Misfit episode.
That's right. How you doing, Norm? Good to see you again.
Yeah, you too. It's getting warm out there. It's almost cigar season. Every time I go out there, I freeze my butt off, and then I have to wait 3 or 4 days before I could even check it out, or even maybe go out.
Well, you've corrupted me. You've been a bad influence on me. I was this very healthy, overweight guy that never drank or never smoked by himself. Then I take a trip a few weeks ago to St. Bart's, and they have real Cuban cigars that you can't get in the United States. And I smoked 5 cigars by myself, without anybody else. I've never done that. I've never smoking cigars by myself. I have, $20,000 of cigars in my house. I'm never smoking one on my balcony without it being a social thing. But you've corrupted me. You've forever, ever corrupted me. Now I can't go back.
See, now I feel like you've cheated on me.
I have, because I had Cubans. I leveled up. I leveled up with a hotter chick.
Oh, man.
With a hotter smoke.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'll remember that.
But in fairness, they had Year of the Dragons and the Cuban Year of the Dragons. We both really like the Year of the Dragons, or the Nicaraguan that we've been getting, or whatever they. These are Cuban ones. They're smaller, so they're not the bigger. They're the smaller ones. But I did somehow I forgot, and 2 of them somehow mysteriously made it into my briefcase when I was coming back, so I have them here for us for the next time we're together.
Oh, perfect. Okay, I can't wait.
Speaking of together, I mean, one thing that goes together really, really well is e-commerce and retail. But a lot of people, I know you've been working on this and you got some projects going that are trying to marry these two, but a lot of people that are in e-commerce, they get into it because technically, in theory, they think it's easier. And they think that, I don't have, it's not as much cost up front, not as much things to do. It's a little bit easier. It's a little bit sexier, I guess. It's the hot thing. But retail hasn't gone away. I mean, retail is still, depending on whose numbers you look at, 80 to 85% of all sales. Even if you take out gas and whatever the figures they do, it's still a hefty percentage of all sales. People still buy retail. And e-commerce is a great proving ground to prove a concept on something, but then going to retail is where you can blow it up. Remember, we had a guy at the $1 Billion Seller Summit back in April that's doing like $100 and something million a year, and he sells on Amazon. And he sells on Walmart.com, but he uses Walmart.com as his proving ground because now the buyers are paying attention to that. And he's in 4,000 Walmart stores and just crushing it. And he talked about that whole process. So that's what our guest today is. That's what he specializes in. He specializes in helping e-commerce, especially Amazon brands, make that transition, make that step over to going retail. And I know you're doing that with you guys have a course or something that does.
Yeah, Retail
does that, right?
Secrets. Yeah,
Retail Secrets that does that. So it's going to be interesting to see combine some of your strategies. We'll see what this guy has to offer today. Mike Esposito. We met him at an Amazon event in Vegas. Sharp guy. So it's going to be some cool stuff and a little bit different and give some people a different perspective on things that I think both of you guys will be able to add to.
We'll bring him on. Welcome, Mike.
How you doing, Mike?
Hello. Good. How are you guys?
Good.
Live and kicking. Live and kicking. So,
I'm wondering why I didn't get the invite to the cigar podcast. I feel like I'm on the wrong one.
Well, you're not, because you see, Norm and I do an event called Collective Mind Society, or we call it CMS for short. And in November, we're actually doing an event in Tampa, Florida. because that's the cigar capital of the U.S., not Miami, like a lot of people think. And we're actually inviting out about 16 people. There's entrepreneurs just for the weekend, and we just hang out, eat good food, go to good cigars, smoke good cigars, have those that drink might have a little adult beverage or two, and just have a good time. So you're definitely welcome to come out to that. Be happy to let you know. It's we've done 2 of these in the past, and they're a lot of fun and a lot of good networking and connections that come out of that.
Say no more. Say no more. I picked up cigars in 2020. I was living in Manhattan during COVID, and I thought I need a new vice. And
I've bought some online, and now I get cold calls from the salespeople at cigars.com like, hey, we got Monte Cristos 40% off, and I'm just like, okay, keep talking.
That's awesome. Are there any cigar bars or lounges that you go to in the San Diego area, or are you just basically at home? Or
there's a couple downtown that I've tried out. They're just a little hard for me to get to. I mostly smoke on the golf course because I was smoking on my patio a lot. Then I moved, and I can't really smoke on my new patio. It like kind of blows inside. So all golf. So I'm playing more golf. Actually, it's really helped my game.
Cigars have helped your golf game. That's funny. So tell us a little bit about yourself. People that don't know, what's your background? What's your history in this e-com retail world?
Yeah. I'll go back somewhat far. It's funny. My degree is actually in marine biology, and then I left school and realized marine biology doesn't pay too well. So I kind of found myself in the startup scene in Boston, Massachusetts. Eventually worked my way into a digital marketing company, and it was really kind of bottom of the barrel stuff like wait, don't go, pop-up ads on the screen and cart abandonment emails. But I kind of learned the e-com space from that. And then I ended up just falling into this position working for a greeting card company called Love Pop. They make these 3D pop-up greeting cards. They were on Shark Tank. I mean, it's really kind of a hot company at the time. And they hired me to build their retail wholesale. I don't know why they did. I didn't know how to do it at all, but I guess they just believed in me. So there was another guy there who's kind of above me, great mentor. And we took their business from $0 in retail to about $4.5 million over the 3.5 years I worked there. I did that by building an inside sales team, starting with mom and pops and kind of growing out from there to the bigger chains. And then I went to Thrazio, the big Amazon aggregator, which, we could have a whole separate hour-long conversation about Thrazio. But my job there was to take their brands into retail. And they had, as you're probably aware, hundreds of brands, many of which were good retail fits, some of which weren't. So I just kind of ended up running this process over and over and over again of how to evaluate if a brand makes sense for retail, how to understand what success on Amazon translates into retail and what doesn't, how to leverage your Amazon standing to sell into buyers. And then really where all the, where the rubber met the road was operationally, like how do you actually execute? How do you go from a brand that's built for e-commerce to actually selling in stores and selling successfully? Because pitching was not hard if we had a dominant Amazon product, but actually executing and succeeding, that was hard. So we went from, nothing to over 45 million in sales in retail in the 5 years I was at Thrazio. And that was over, about a dozen brands with, 3 or 4 of them kind of doing the bulk of that. So after I left Thrazio, sorry, go ahead.
Is that Angry Orange doing a lot of that?
Oh yeah, I was there from the beginning with Angry Orange. Learned a lot of great lessons from that. That's a great brand. But yeah, so I left Thrazio last year, and I kind of had a hunch that there were a lot of other Amazon brands, either larger or smaller operators that thought retail expansion would be good for them. There'd be good reasons to go to retail. And so I started a consulting business to help those brands make the leap. And I really focus on kind of helping them assess the market, their viability and all that, but then actually executing it, working as like their fractional VP of sales and marketing and helping them instill these plans we've created in this roadmap.
So what about these Amazon brands? What type of brands, what niches should even be trying to explore this?
I think it's pretty broad. I mean, The way I look at it is really like category dominance and then differentiation within the category. So you could be in a very commoditized category like spatulas, right? But are you at the top of your category because you're just super efficient at PPC and you just got better, you're just better at spreadsheeting than, the big brands that are selling spatulas? Or does your spatula have, a unique color, unique branding, or maybe it has some add-on or a little bit of intellectual property that differentiates it just enough? Because all these things are going to be sold in stores no matter what, but you're going against the establishment. So in a highly commoditized category, if you're dominant, that's number one, like bestseller badges, top rankings, 4.7 stars with 50,000 reviews, things like that. Those are all a lot of credibility. But then if you have a little point of differentiation, even in something very simple, then usually that's a good indicator. It's not a slam dunk that you'd be viable in retail, but that's where I start looking.
And does price point have anything to do with it? Like there's such a huge price range with every category. Do you have to be at the bottom with the bottom feeders, in the middle, at the top? Does that even does it even matter?
Yes. Yeah, it's foundational to what you're doing, but you can exist in all of those. You can exist at the bottom. If you can win on price, great. That's usually going to be your easiest, to be the lowest price. But you can also win in the premium category. That's what we did with Angry Orange. We were double the price of everything else, but we showed more value. We looked more premium. We had a better bottle. We had a new scent. We, signaled that we were a natural product, right? So we went top of the market. And then you can go middle of the market as well. You can go value, bang for your buck. It's really, any strategy can work, because if you go look at shelves, they all have other brands executing those strategies. So it can work for you, but you kind of have to start with your thesis. Where do I fit? What makes sense for me? And then work backwards from there. You don't want to try to force yourself into kind of one of those slots if it's not right for you.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Kevin and Norm here with a quick word from one of our sponsors, 8Fig. Let me tell you about a platform that's changing the game for Amazon sellers. That's right, it's called 8Fig. On average, sellers working with 8Fig grow up to 400% in less than a year.
8Fig offers both funding and free tools for e-commerce growth and cash flow management. And here's how it works.
8Fig provides flexible, data-driven funding tailored to your exact needs. They can fund anywhere from up to $50,000 all the way up to $10 million.
8Fig gives you free tools to forecast demand, manage inventory, and analyze cash flow.
Visit 8fig.co, that's 8fig.co, to learn more or check the link in the show notes below.
Just mention Marketing Misfits and get 25% off your cost.
That's 8fig.co, 8fig.co. See you on the other side. But on the spatula, if you have 4.7 rating and 50,000 reviews and a decent price, still to get into retail and to get into a Walmart shelf, someone has to come out. So you got to be replacing someone. So how do you justify, or how do you show that how do you take out another spatula to put yours in its place? I mean, what do you got to show? Is that spatula just waning in sales or getting a lot of returns? And so you just have an opportunity where you can jump in and you're the best qualified because of these reviews and ratings? Or is it, what if that spatula is doing well already and they're doing good? How do you come in and say, look, we can do better?
Yeah, there's a lot of ways to go about that. It's going to depend on the retailer, I'd say. If they have one spatula and that spatula is flying off the shelves, you're probably not going to knock them out. You should go play somewhere else where you have a better chance. But generally speaking, the truth is these buyers there's always something not doing well enough on their shelves. There's always a weakest item if they have 4 items. So those are the ones they're always going to be willing to swap out and experiment with. So you can show them your value in a number of ways. You can kind of do a grounds up sales approach where you work with smaller mom and pops or regional chains and you build up a little sales data there. And you can say, we're doing this many units per store per week and places with this much foot traffic. In your store, it might translate to this. You could go head to head. And, if that spatula you think might be weak on the shelf is on Amazon, you could show you better reviews, better listing, lower return rate, whatever. there's a number of ways to really go about it. You could show your marketing. I mean, they really like if you've got any kind of brand whatsoever, especially any sort of influencer traction or something that indicates to a buyer that you might be able to drive traffic to their store. That can be a differentiator for you in a commodity category where you've got a very similar product, but maybe you just got a better TikTok. And then you're going to say, hey, we're going to Target. We'll announce you on our TikTok and we'll have our 2 influencers do twice a year. That might be enough to edge out, their lowest performing competitor.
What about the flip side of that, where I'm the fourth? There's 4 specialists. I'm number 4, and I'm in all 4,000 Walmart stores, and they're doing $4 million in POs with me a year, and then I get kicked out. And that $4 million, I'm doing $2 million on Amazon. I'm doing $4 million in Walmart. I get kicked out because some other dude comes in and takes my place. Now I just lost $4 million in POs. And I'm like freaking out. What am I going to do? That just went 2/3 of my business. And so how do you counter? How do you deal with that? Versus on Amazon, as you know, Amazon can do whatever they want anytime they want. And you could lose your listing, but at least you have a sense of feeling that you're more in control. So how do you handle that kind of thing?
Yeah, there's kind of 2 aspects of that really. One thing you're talking about is having a lot of risk, being centralized at one big retailer. If you're doing 4 million in Walmart, you are at risk of Walmart kicking you out.
They won't even allow you to do it. If you're just going to one big box, they'll ask you right on the application, what percentage are we of your sales? So that will even help protect you.
Well, I know Costco does that. Costco won't be more than, was it 20% of your sales?
Yeah,
or something
20%.
like that? Yeah.
Yeah, they don't like to roll the dice and have you become insolvent. They're trying to protect themselves too. They don't want you to be performing well and then suddenly you drop off because you let the rest of your business, collapse, right? So you certainly take a risk when you take on a big account if it becomes too big of a proportion. So going to multiple accounts, I mean, if you're going to go retail, I do not recommend just targeting 1 or 2 big boxes. A, it's going to be very hard to get in. B, even if you get in, you introduce that kind of risk. So you can hedge your risk by being in a lot of retail, much like you might hedge your risk with Amazon with multiple SKUs or different PPC strategies, right? Like the same kind of principles apply. So hedging by going in multiple retailers is one. The other piece is you should be really proactively trying to not get kicked out. And that's where people, when they say it's a relationships business, I think this is what they mean, where you need to have a relationship with your buyer. And it's not a relationship where, Norm's handing them the nicest cigar, and they're like, well, I guess I like Norm.
That doesn't work anymore.
Yeah. It doesn't work anymore. There's too much data now. It certainly doesn't hurt to, smoke a cigar with them, but the relationship is an information relationship. Like, what can your buyer tell you about your performance? Not in your annual line review, because by then it's probably too late. But, are you finding out that you are actually missing sales because you're out of stock a lot and you're looking at the data and they're not getting out on the shelf? And so you're communicating that to your planner and your buyer, and you're doing their job for them, telling them, hey, if we were in stock, we'd probably increase sales. Maybe they get out there and fix it. Maybe you need to hire some contractors to go out and put your stuff out. Sometimes that's worth it. You launch a new SKU, it's struggling. You think maybe it's the packaging because you had a departure. So you design 2 new bottles for whatever you're selling, and you share that with your buyer. You say, hey, what do you think? You get feedback. They know a lot. I mean, it's a useful relationship. But the more you're engaged with them and actively tinkering at their store and trying different marketing things, whether it be, stuff you're spending on that's their proprietary marketing or merchandising or packaging or prices or promotions, just constant experimentation like you do on Amazon. You're going to sell better. And then when you sell better, you've insulated yourself. And then if you have a good relationship with the buyer, usually if you start to flag, they'll come to you long before you're in the danger zone, and they'll tell you, you need to step it up and here's what you can do. So, that would be my kind of approach to avoiding that $4 million suddenly going away, is hedge with other retailers. And, get close with the buyer and be proactive in staying on the shelf. It can still happen to you. You can do everything right and get unlucky, but if you do it the right way, you're usually going to survive something like that.
I like to add that it's very similar to your Amazon listing. So if you have a new order and it's starting to fail, you got to check out your reviews. You got to be proactive. Is it the packaging? Like you were saying, there's something that people don't like about it and it's not converting. So you've got to take it back, and you either, when you reorder, change the game, repackage, maybe the quality, but whatever your negative reviews or your positive reviews are saying, then you've got to address that. It might even be the color of the bloody box, just that.
It often is. It often is the color of the box.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is crazy. But one of the things I wanted to talk to you about is people don't realize that when you're selling on Amazon, it's completely different than selling in retail. And I'm talking about retail, the packaging of it, getting it onto a shelf. It's not retail ready. And you'll hear buyers talking about this retail ready, or you'll hear that expression. Can you get into that? What is retail ready, and what do e-com or any online seller have to do to become retail ready?
Yeah. From a very basic standpoint, it means, can your product convey what it is efficiently and effectively on a shelf? So can a person who is walking by at a brisk pace with relatively poor eyesight read your label? Does it stand out? You don't have your giant PDP page. You don't have, your engineered SEO, 2,000 words to describe what is that thing you're selling. You don't have a nice video. You just have a box and the context of what's around it. So people usually build for Amazon based on, the size qualification of Amazon. So they get the correct fees, right? And it's not a terrible thing to do. But a brown box that just says, barware is not going to sell on the shelf, because why does that brown box of barware cost me $34? I don't even know what's in it, right? It just says bar, and maybe on the back it has a little, it has a list of what's in it, but that's not enough. That doesn't convey value to a consumer. And of course, you need things like a UPCA barcode on there. If you have batteries or something, you need compliant packaging for that. But in terms of retail ready, it's boil down the essential of what you would put on a listing to convey your value, and how do you put that on a box? And it's not just a bunch of words. It's really, I recommend paying someone who really knows how to design packaging. Like, it's words, it's image, it's color, it's font, it's flow. This stuff has to work very quickly. People are spending half a second looking at you on the shelf. So what draws their attention? Why might they pick you up? The real thing with Angry Orange, where we kind of took off with that brand, honestly, was kind of dumb luck. We had an orange bottle. Every single other bottle was right. We had an orange bottle and an orange scent, and then people picked it up, and it smelled orange and it looked orange, and it worked great. And we had a white bottle for one of our other SKUs, and we just redesigned that bottle to be orange, and overnight, 43% sales increase. Which is, you don't get that a lot, but yeah. And that was with that, and that the cannibalization with the other SKU was only 5%. So net, we were way up. But it was all just the color of the bottle. We're an orange product, have an orange bottle. Everyone else was white, so we stood out. So that could be a strategy. Just go the other direction. But if you're a premium product, maybe the minimalist, sleek looking packaging is the right thing for you. If you're the value product, maybe you just want to put a tag with a flashy word on it that says value, or, cost efficient or whatever. So that's how I think about it. I mean, would you add anything to that, Norm?
Just one thing, and this is just a basic tip. If you're planning to go into retail, walk into a Shoppers Drug Mart here in Canada, CVS in the States, go down the aisle, see where your products would be, and see how you'd stand out. Sit there and see who your competition is and what you have to do, just like you said, for that color. How will you stand out in that group of competition? And that's just a simple way of doing just a quick, some basic research, and you can ask friends to do it too. What do they see in that aisle that the other people, the other buyers would see? What would attract them?
Mr. Beast
Yeah.
does. Mr. Beast actually, with his Beastables, the feast of whatever it's called, the chocolates. I know when he goes to masterminds or when he travels, he always stops at Walmart's, and I think they're Targets too, but or whichever one it is, Walmart or Target, or maybe it's both. And he actually always drags everybody with him, and they go in and they look at his chocolate bars in the candy aisle and see how they're merchandised and see how they're doing. And sometimes he'll readjust stuff, like, and straighten it up and readjust it. But he just wants to see because from store to store, I used to have a buddy that actually did stuff for Mars, where his job was to literally, he had like 46 grocery stores and 200 convenience stores. And his job was to go in and hit those at least once a quarter, and actually, or some of them more often, and check the shelving to make sure the Walmart guy stuff wasn't sitting in a pallet in the back and never got put out, or the M&M's guys didn't move over and take away the Reese's spot or whatever it was, and they're encroaching on them, and straighten it all up. But another thing that on the retail ready, I think that's important is compliance. On e-commerce, you can get away with bloody murder on compliance. You don't have to have UL certification. You can say it. You can say my flashlight does 1 million lumens when such a thing doesn't exist, and sell that on Amazon as a Chinese seller, but you can't do that when it comes to retail. So compliance is something that the retail takes super serious, right, when it comes to certifications and everything. And so that's a different animal than when a lot of e-com sellers aren't prepared for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, the beauty of it is, though, if you get compliant with the top dogs like a Walmart or a Costco, everyone else will accept your compliance. And there's like third-party compliance systems like Works, where you can become generally compliant, and then you've proven yourself to the retailers. But Walmart has like their own labs. So that's something, it can be a headache to try to do yourself. I usually recommend outsourcing that to someone who knows how to do it. It's just kind of a toll you have to pay, but you can feed it back into your other systems and use those certifications for further credibility on Amazon or your D2C. So there's extra benefits to it. And just real quick to add on the merchandising thing, Norm, we're really talking about packaging, but I think it's helpful for people to think about merchandising as far as product presentation like you were saying, in the context of other products. Like, you walk out there, what if everyone is selling singles? Maybe there's room for a 2-pack. Maybe you realize on Amazon, people buy your product twice, or they like your bundle, but you don't see any bundles on the shelves, right? That's where you can have an edge, and you could go to a buyer and you can tell them, I have this data and everybody likes 2-packs. So I made a 2-pack for you to put on your shelf, and I bet you it's going to outsell or outmargin those 1-packs you're selling.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah. What about on retailers that want something different than what's online? A lot of retailers, they don't want price comparison or arbitrage stuff going on. So they'll say, okay, if you're selling a 6-pack of protein bars on Amazon and Walmart, you got to do a 4-pack or a 5-pack. Or something like that. Do you see a lot of that kind of stuff happening too, where you need to actually differentiate it a little slightly? Or maybe they're differentiating it to actually just meet a price point. They're like, Walmart's, we'll sell your protein bars, but a box can't go over $4.99. So the only way for you to get that and make the margins is cut it from 6 to 5. But what do you see along those lines?
Yes, it can go either direction. Sometimes they want exactly what you have on Amazon because they know that's the proven product, and they don't want to take a risk with something that's too much of a variation. But with what you're talking about, like something that's a fluid or just like a multi-pack of units, that'll happen. And it's usually to get to a price point. The thing and I usually recommend differentiation to minimize your chance of Amazon scraping your SKU on it, because you're always going to go on those retailers' websites. And what you have to be careful of, and you can guard against it with like good long-term planning. You have to be careful of a retailer dropping price for some sort of promotion, which you need to negotiate all that up front. But let's say they do it either by accident or on purpose. Amazon scrapes that price drop. You're now no longer the lowest price availability for that item on the internet. You'll lose your buy box. And I mean, we had this happen at Thrazio all the time. We had days when we would lose 6 figures of revenue in like hours because somebody violated our agreement and scraped. So that's where you want to differentiate. Because
you know how you prevent that? There's a way to prevent that. You actually need to have Buy with Prime. So if you're in the Buy with Prime program on your own, like Shopify site, they will not penalize you for that. That's a hack. That's a little workaround. Amazon will not penalize you for lower prices if you're in the Buy with Prime program on your own website. That's straight from Buy with Prime. That's not secondhand. That's straight from the person, Lisa, that actually handles Buy with Prime. So that's a way around that. But it is a problem. That most people don't realize.
Even if you're on a third party beyond the Shopify, if you're okay, that's good to know.
As long as you're in the Buy with Prime program and registered properly with Buy with Prime. Yeah.
Good.
You know what
Buy
with Prime is, right? It's where you allow Amazon checkout on your own website.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, that'll make sense for a lot of brands, not everybody, but and there is the issue with scraping where if you go to a different size or different unit count, it doesn't matter that you change the UPC and the SKU. Amazon can still scrape that.
Yeah.
So you do have to be careful with differentiating it enough. Usually it can be as simple as like adding on a little, let's say you have cleaning product in your 4-pack, you include a little microfiber towel, right? And maybe you're just writing that cost off, but now you've fully differentiated from your Amazon SKU because you don't have the microfiber towel on Amazon, right? So those are some ways to kind of hack around it. But generally I recommend differentiation because you can protect your Amazon pricing flexibility. Because if you give the same SKU to Walmart, they're not going to like it if you're opportunistically discounting on Amazon, but not giving them the chance to match the price or to discount. So you do have to be aware of that and plan ahead.
Now, a quick word from our sponsor, Lavanta. Hey, Kevin, tell us a little bit about it.
That's right, Amazon sellers. Do you want to skyrocket your sales and boost your organic rankings? Meet Lavanta, Norm and I's secret weapon for driving high-quality external traffic straight to our Amazon storefronts using affiliate marketing. That's right. It's achieved through direct partnerships with leading media outlets like CNN, Wirecutter, and BuzzFeed, just to name a few, as well as top affiliates, influencers, bloggers, and media buyers, all in Lavanta's marketplace, which is home to over 5,000 different creators that you get to choose from.
So are you ready to elevate your business? Visit get.lavanta.io/misfits. That's get.lavanta, LEVANTA.io/misfits, and book a call and you'll get up to 20% off Lavanta's gold plan today. That's get.lavanta.io/misfits. Let's talk about the catalog and the communication. Amazon sellers aren't used to that. Buyers need a catalog to choose the products from. Can you give any advice on that?
Yeah, I would say avoid the paradox of choice. If you have 200 SKUs, do not bring them 200 SKUs. Bring them 3 SKUs or 2. They like to be told what's going to work within reason. You don't tell them how to do their jobs, but you say, this is the research I did on your retailer. Here's everything you've got on the shelf. Here's my Amazon stats. This is where we think we fit in. Here are 4 items. Just narrow it down for them. If you give them too much to choose from, they won't choose anything. So now that can be different for different categories. Like I worked in greeting cards. We did have to give people 200 SKU catalogs. And even then, we'd still say these are the 36 best sellers. These are your 12 best Christmas cards. This is our number 1 birthday. Within that, we would still qualify what the best stuff is. So go really targeted and go with a limited SKU count and show that you did your homework. And that's going to be better off. And when you get into any actual pitch of like, what do I need to show? Price, volume, dimensions, whatever. Usually they'll have some sort of template for submission. So you'll know what like data you need to give them. Or if you're working with a broker rep, they'll guide you through this.
And leave the pages of ego out of the catalog.
Yes. I always say, try to make it collaborative from the start, solicit feedback. Maybe you give them 4 items, but they actually have a better idea of what's going to fit in their store. Be open to that. If they're engaging with you and suggesting things, that means they probably like you and want to carry you. So I would run with that and not fight it.
Can you talk about the added on fees? So a lot of people don't realize when you go to retail, there's shared markdowns, there's advertising co-op fees, there's if you didn't put the label 6 centimeters from the lower right corner of the left side of the box, there's $100 fee. Can you talk about some of those things that might surprise people when they're coming from the e-com world?
Yeah. So there's two categories of that. One is your allowances, which is like your built-in stuff they're just going to deduct off your invoice. So that can be your marketing co-op, maybe 5%, maybe 3%. Your damage return allowance, call that 2%. And they'll just throw on random fees. They're like the cell phone company. It's like, what is this 2% that's just on my thing? But all those things will be explicitly stated up front. And those tend to be consistent. But once a year they'll come back and they'll ask for another half a point or whatever. So what you want to do with those is just price those in to their cost. A pricing model that's worked for me in the past is you essentially show them their base cost, and then you tell them this is what we will charge you for the product if we don't do any allowances, because these are all ultimately negotiable. And then they'll come back and say, well, we need these allowances. And then you show them, it's 32 cents more per unit if we put this, 15% you want back in there. So you're netting out evenly. Ultimately, you're going to end up negotiating a little probably, but you're going to come from a position of strength when you start the dialogue. This is your base price. If you introduce allowances, it goes up. That just gives you negotiating leverage. Then the other one you're talking about is like your warehouse penalties. Whenever you mess up something, they want, part of their procedures. So they all have very intricate stickering, labeling, advanced shipping notification, EDI system requirements to receive POs, acknowledge them, pack them, send them to the right places, invoice, all that. And these distribution centers they have they're profit centers. They make money off of this. So they are out looking to get you on this. So you need a really good 3PL partner. You need one that will ideally has worked with that retailer or worked with a number of retailers before. I do not recommend using your dropship DTC provider as to fulfill Walmart. They will promise you they can do it, and then you will go out of business. So I go with someone that really knows what they're doing. And then, in the 3PL contract, you have to work it in that if they make a mistake, they have to reimburse you for those fees. If it's your mistake because you didn't supply them with the right, enough goods and you're late on the PO or whatever, that's on you. But you want to be reimbursed. You want to meet with your 3PL constantly and hammer out systematic issues. And then the sad reality is a lot of these these chargebacks you get are erroneous. So you have to be able to go and challenge them and fight them. And there's some softwares out there that are working on doing that. I've spoken to some people in the space that I recommend clients to. So, or you can do it manually. I mean, it depends on your resources, how much time you have, and how much you're getting charged. But I mean, there's stuff where if you acknowledge a PO and you don't ship it to Target, that's $5,000. Most of them are more like 100, 200, 300, but it's death by 1,000 cuts. So you just have to be on top of it, and it's a cost of doing business, but you can keep it pretty minimal. You can keep it to 1 to 2% if you're on top of it.
What about on the financing side? I just got an order from Walmart for $2 million. And I'm like, holy cow, I don't have $2 million sitting around, and I don't have the history with my local bank. But I want to ship this order. I got this big PO. Can you talk about what some of the options are on when it comes to factoring it? Because Walmart's not going to pay me. They're going to say net 60 or net 90, and it might be 170 days before I actually get the check because they pay you whenever the hell they want to. Most of these big retailers do, and they don't honor any schedules. Some do. That's not fair. Some of them actually are very prompt, but the vast majority pay you when they feel like it. And so how do I finance that? If I just got a $2 million order from my spatulas for Walmart, what are my options to actually make this happen?
Yeah, there's a few ways to go about it. I mean, a good relationship with your supplier is number one. If you can do a reasonable down payment and get some net terms there just to bridge that gap a little bit, but that's not going to solve everything. So usually you can finance your purchase orders, and there's all sorts of capital providers out there that will do that. And, you might finance them at 1, 2, 3%, which is not great, but you have the paper from Walmart, so it's pretty solid for them. and you're going to be able to turn it around. And ideally, you'll have net 60, maybe you'll have net 90, but I believe Walmart still finances. I know they did that for a very long time. Like they're like the loan sharks. They're like, yeah, we'll buy your good and we'll give you a loan to sell it to us. So,
it's like Amazon does. Amazon lending's like the same thing. But yeah, usually those are like, what's that old thing? A lot of times it's 210 net 30. If you pay in 10 days, you get a 2% discount. But the whole thing's doing 30. All those accounting terms.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. Is you still seeing those kind of things
exist? Oh yeah, that's still the default.
Chewy will do that on the e-commerce side.
Yeah, that's still the default. I mean, you always want to go for net 30, no discounts. You're never going to get it, but that's where you start you will get it for honestly the medium-sized players, especially if you are a big brand and they're coming to you. But if you can get net 60 or net 62% at a Walmart, especially when you're starting out, that's not bad. But yeah, they're always looking for the nickels and dimes.
What about like on a Walmart test? So I got Walmart I just showed them my 4-point star rating and 50,000 reviews. I'm like, all right, Kevin, this spatula looks good. Most likely, they're not going to take me and put me in 4,000 plus stores. They're going to say, hey, we got 50 stores over here, 100 stores over here, and they're going to put me in there for a little test. What can I do to help influence that test assuming I have a customer list and assuming I don't have a customer list?
Yeah, you can. Well, number one is you're right. They're going to do a test almost always. A out of the gate chain wide rollout is extremely rare. So a couple ways to go about it. One, you got to make sure your product gets on the shelf, especially if you're doing something like a sidekick or an end cap or something that's a little more elaborate. Even if you're going to hurt your margin a little bit, it's probably worth it to hire contractors to go out there and go in the back and make sure it gets out there, especially if you're doing like, let's say a 6-month test and everything's been delivered and it's showing out of stock for 2/3 of the stores, then go and get that out there because you're better off. You're going to lose the money anyway if you don't sell it, right? So you're better off getting it out there. And as far as marketing goes, I mean, definitely leverage your own list if you have it. Tell people you're in Walmart, what zip codes they're in. You can also do targeted social media ads, and this has been pretty successful in the past for us. Like going zip code targeted on Facebook, Meta. Now available in Walmart. Come check us out. See if you can. It can be tough with a test, but sometimes you can get them to participate in promo codes with you, where you can promote and give these codes out through social media or your email list or whatever. But yeah, I think the most important thing is make sure you execute getting it on the shelf, because that is where everybody thinks about the high-minded marketing stuff, which is useful, and you want to experiment and try different stuff. There's some nano influencer groups that are kind of popping up where they'll send people with like 5,000 followers, but they'll send 20 of them, to go in the store and check it out. Those are all useful. I would encourage people to experiment with those, see what makes sense, see what has good ROI. But where everybody can get tripped up that you don't really think about is you go, okay, I'm shipping it to Walmart. It's going to get on the shelf, but oftentimes it never makes it to the shelf. So make sure you have contingency plans if they're just not loading it out there, because then you're doomed from the start. That would be my kind of first place to start from an advice standpoint.
So what do you do when it's not on the shelf? You go into the local Walmart and it's like, I know they got delivery here. Do you go talk to that store manager and say, hey,
they'll let you in the back. They'll let you in the back.
They will? Okay.
They'll let you in the back. You go put it out yourself. You're not going to be able to get to every Walmart though. So you're going to want to tell your buyer, your planner, they're going to be less sympathetic than you expect them to be. But yeah, you can send just your friends out yourself, or you can hire some people and you just tell, I've done this plenty of times. You walk in, I say, I'm with this brand, we shipped you this. And they'll go look in the back, or if they don't feel like it, they'll be like, why don't you go look through the boxes? And then you go look at the boxes, you go, oh, I see why you couldn't find it. One little trick, actually, this is a good one, is if you're shipping to Walmart, if they'll allow it, make sure you read the compliance and everything. But can you make your cardboard box stand out, especially if you're doing like a promotional test? Let's say you're doing 600 stores and you have a sidekick. Can you make your box bright red so it's super easy to find? Again, I would check with their compliance standards on their shipping so you don't get charged back from that. But that's a technique we used with Angry Orange.
And configure the box and the product in the box to the pallet. Get as much as you can on there. All right. So when you're thinking, so most of the people listening right now are probably thinking, we're talking about Costco, we're talking about Walmart, we're talking about all these big box stores. Well, there's hundreds of thousands of medium to independent. Like if I live in a small town, maybe 9,000 people, and I can go downtown and I'm going to find an independent pet store or hardware store. And those people there, if you've got cash flow problems or you're worried about that, find those people across America. Like let's say it's a spa, for example. You can sell soap, you can sell lotions, you can sell whatever to these spas. They'll buy a case or whatever, it could be one case, it could be two cases. It's minimum, that's your minimum order quantity, and you get paid up front. They're going to pay you on a credit card, you grab it. So it doesn't necessarily have to be this crazy expensive issue with cash flow. If you want to start off small and see if you are ready for retail, or if you want to expand your market, you can do that. But if you want to go into, like we had a company we were working with, had 10 million in sales off of their website, went into retail in 1 year, 1.5 years, it went to 45. It's great if you can swing the cash. But I just want to bring out the point that there's hundreds of thousands of independent stores out there that you could work with.
Yeah, can we talk about them for a little bit? The mom and pop. I advise. I'd say I would advise more than half my clients to go mom and pop first for the reasons you outlined. One is just the capital intensity is much lower. It scales very linearly, so you can grow it very slowly, but your risk is also mitigated. So if you have 100 accounts and you lose one, you lose 1% of your business. Whereas if you have Walmart and Target and you lose Walmart, you lose 50% of your business. So, but I think the real value of it is you learn how to, all the things we've talked about, like how do you merchandise, how do you package, how do you operationally execute? You can learn it in a much safer, lower stakes environment where whenever you make a mistake, you don't get charged a $5,000 chargeback from Walmart because you shipped the wrong box. You just call the store owner and you say, "Hey, sorry," and I'll send you a box for free. And it's a $40 mistake instead of a $5,000 mistake, right? So there's a science to all this, and how you merchandise and how you present your product and stuff. But I always feel it really starts with like the art. Like you start qualitative, like you're in 20 shops around your community and you just talk to the store owners, the managers. What do people say about this? Are they buying it? Do they take it to the front and they say, "Oh, that costs too much," and they leave it at the front desk and they don't want to buy it? Or are they just ignoring it? Is it sitting next to the right thing in the shelf? And you can hang out in a store for 3 hours and watch people walk by your product a million times, or to pick it up and things like that. And so that's like the lab. That's where you figure out the kind of basics of, all right, this is an obvious issue. This issue, people can't tell what this is, or it's more expensive, or nobody wants the 4-pack. They keep telling the manager that's too much. Can I buy? They keep asking if I sell these in singles or something like that. Then, once you've been in, 200 to 1,000 stores, now you've really started to learn some things. You've probably got a few 100,000 to $1 million plus in very high margin, good cash flow income, because you are getting these upfront payments most of the time. And now you can go to these big retailers and be a little more confident. And you can say, "This is how much I sell. These are the stores I perform best in. These are our best sellers," because you actually know what your best sellers are, not your Amazon best sellers, your retail best sellers. And then if you do get a test at, a large grocery chain and it doesn't work out, you're not going to go broke because you've got a good, healthy business underneath it.
Are you looking to quickly boost new Amazon product launches or scale up existing listings to reach first page positioning? The influencer platform Stack Influence can help.
That's right. Stack Influence pushes high volume external traffic sales straight to Amazon listings using micro influencers that you only have to pay with your products.
They've helped up-and-coming brands like Magic Spoon compete with Cheerios for top category positioning, while also helping Fortune 500 brands like Unilever launch their new products.
Right now is one of the best times to get started with Stack Influence. You can sign up at stackinfluence.com or click the link in this video down in the description or notes below and mention Misfits, that's MISFITS, to get 10% off your first campaign. stackinfluence.com.
How do you find these guys? Is it fair.com? Is it independent distributors? Is it just working the phones? And how do you find these smaller guys?
All the above. I mean, honestly, from the very start, I say just walk in the stores in your community. That's the best place to start. But you're only going to get like 3, 4, 5 accounts from that. But you will get some good relationships, and you'll learn a lot of very basic stuff very quickly. And then I try to kind of work in to out, right? Like fair can be very efficient, but I would say unless you're really spending a lot of money in marketing, you're not going to get a huge boom from fair. But fair is good. Like there's no reason not to put yourself up there, right? Because you'll get some passive leads, but you're not going to suddenly wake up and have 300 new doors, the next day. You get a few trickling in, and then you can use that as your order system if you don't want to build it up operationally yourself. You don't want to use Spotify, wholesale or whatever. Sorry, Shopify. I've always listened to Spotify. I mix those two up. I can't imagine I'm the only one who does that. But yeah, if you don't want to build your own systems, go to fair. But I really like the independent trade shows. Those are really good because they're order writing shows. You go there and you can write 50 orders and you can break even on your expense. Or maybe you don't break even, but these people are going to order 2 or 3 more times throughout the rest of the year. So over the course of the year, I'm actually going to come out well ahead because I wrote 25 orders and 22 of them will reorder at least X amount of times. Plus you get feedback and you learn and you make connections in the industry. So there's like the big ones that are like America's Mart in Atlanta and the Las Vegas market. Those do January and July shows, and they're just big. All these independent gift stores come in and they just buy general merchandise for those. Then you can get more targeted. I've done UPS store shows. I've done Wild Birds Unlimited. There's grocery shows. There's pharmacy. So I would say find 1 or 2 trade shows that fit in your niche, fit your budget, and go to them consistently. Go every year, because the more you're there, the more they kind of recognize you as a brand. They trust that you're not going away. But you can make money off these shows. You can be prepared to write orders, offer discounts, have your bestseller bundle, have a little iPad where you take the information and the credit card right there, so they don't they don't go home and think about.
They're paying you up front. Mostly these smaller guys are paying you up front, so you're not having to cash flow most of these guys. Usually
credit card, yeah, most of the time. I mean, they'll ask for net 30, and then I'd say, hey, your credit card's giving you net 30. So that almost always works, but yeah, they'll pay up front because it's not that much money. I mean, your mom and pop order is going to be like $200 to $500, right? Yeah. For intro orders, not tens of thousands. But maybe you're a really seasonal product and they've had you a couple of years and they love you, and then all of a sudden your Q4 order is $2,500, right? So, yeah, they tend to pay up front.
Yeah, and you can also go to your local retailer as well. A lot of the times, even here, we've got mid to large grocery stores, big box stores close by. You could go in there, and sometimes they'll allow you to bring in a local product, and you can expand out from there.
Walmart has that too. They have that with their store managers. They're allowed to bring in a certain X, and they have some sort of leniency on what they can bring in. That's like a local barbecue sauce or something like that.
Costco does. I mean, there's a lot of companies like that. The other question that I have for you is about distributors. So a lot of people want to do this on their own. They want to do it on the cheap, just small brands. They might be selling quite a bit on Amazon, but they want to do it directly. When would you bring in a distributor?
It depends.
And why?
There's a lot of factors. I think it's really category dependent. If you're in food, usually distribution is kind of the only path to scale, or can be. It's just going to make a lot of sense because these grocery distributors are really well established and they have the people to do the stocking on the shelves, because you really need to be, merchandising constantly when you're talking about perishable goods, especially frozen foods. But I think there's a misconception about distributors. They're not like a magical panacea where you're like, all right, here you go, distributor, grow my retail business to 7 million. You kind of get out what you put in. They're going to want you to go to their trade shows. They have their own trade shows, and you're going to have to train their sales team, and you're still going to have to market, and you're still going to have to kind of be on top of things. So the trade-off you get is you have a little less operational burden, but you have a little less control, and you're probably a little less, you're less efficient at like an account level, but you cover more ground, if that makes sense. Like you have to remember, any broker, rep, or distributor, they have you and they have a bunch of other products they're selling. So if they go in and they sell and that buyer's interested in everything else, they're not going to push yours. Whereas if you're selling, you're the one who's selling, like it's just about your product. So you have to kind of sell the distributor or the rep you're working with to be enthusiastic about your product constantly. It's not a set and forget. You still have to manage them.
And what's that going to
but
cost them?
It depends. I mean, it can be, 15 or 20%, right? But if you've got the margin there, then you're not dealing with, the allowances and the chargebacks. You think of it more of like an FOB type of thing. Like all right, I'm making a smaller margin, but I can do more volume and I can avoid kind of all the fees and all the headaches, right? But my growth is going to be only as good as like the enthusiasm and the effort these distributors put in. Which is, again, I'm not trying to totally knock it. It can make a lot of sense for the right brands, but I would just say go in with your eyes wide open. It's not a magical solution to suddenly be in retail. You still have to like be thinking about how you're solving retail constantly and how you're selling.
What are the biggest mistakes you're seeing sellers, Amazon sellers, trying to do, or what are the biggest mistakes sellers are making trying to get into retail right now?
Yeah, I think we kind of covered it earlier a little bit, like rushing to be in the big stores, like when they're really not ready. Because sometimes this happens. I mean, you can be a dominant Amazon product and a Walmart buyer comes to you. Maybe you got on Walmart Plus and you did really well and they say, I want to bring you in. You say, all right, I can get into Walmart. Let's do this. But then you introduce all that risk we talked about. It's going to be very capital intensive, and you can read everything and you can study their manual and you can check everything, but you just don't know what you don't know. And if you go in and you fail, it can be very costly. Maybe it won't bankrupt your business, but you're probably never getting in Walmart again. Or maybe it would have made sense for you that buyer comes to you in Walmart, you talk to them, you start a relationship with them, you spend a year and a half in mom and pops and some regional chains kind of building up and learning how to package and everything. And then you go back to that buyer. So I guess speed and understanding that it does take years. Amazon is beautiful because you can spin up a product in a couple weeks, couple months, and really that thing can start spitting off cash. But in retail, it's a slower kind of farming. Like it takes time, but you ultimately get more margin in the long run. You don't have to spend on PPC. Once you're kind of in the shelf, you're pretty secure. You usually have a good year. Every time you successfully get renewed, you've got a good year of stability that you can kind of plan around. So longer upfront or harder upfront, but sort of more secure over the long run, in my opinion, because you were saying, Kevin, you feel like you have a lot of control on Amazon, but they could always pull the plug on you. And you got a new fee for another 1%. Well, there goes 1% of your margin, right? So and you'll always be crafty and work your way around it, find workarounds. But the retail stuff happens so slow that it can feel very secure because changes aren't coming for at least a year, especially with the big ones.
Mm-hmm. I've heard though a lot of turnover in buyers. I was speaking with someone 4 or 5 years ago that helps people get to retail, and she said, "Yeah, buyers typically don't last more than 6 months, so it's hard to build relationships at the big brands." At the big, the Walmarts, and they tend to have high turnover. Is that still true?
Yeah, I'd say so. I don't know about 6 months. Maybe in some specific cases that seems a little fast, but it's, instead they used to be buyers for 10, 15 years in one category, and now it's 2, 3, 4, 5, and then they move them around. And I think that's probably to avoid me and Norm giving them cigars and becoming their best buddy and getting to stay in, even if we're not performing well. It probably keeps it probably keeps them honest because they got to be more data driven when you come in, and it does create risk. Yeah, if they come in and they don't know you, you're not there. It's like in like football, the new GM comes in, and he's like, well, he's not my coach. I don't care if he went 10-6, like I fire him, right? So it can be the same, but you just have to be vigilant. And if you're selling well, you're usually going to be safe. And then if you sell well, you can build a relationship with a new buyer. But it's constant work. It's constant. You're out there in the field just pulling weeds and watering everything and fertilizing. There is no set and forget.
Well, to sum this up, can we just talk about managing expectations? So many people think that once they get into retail, it's going to be their exit. They're going to do 100 million. What can you tell us about managing expectations?
I would say those are not bad goals to have. Just be realistic about the timeline. You're probably not going to have any significant retail sales for at least a year at the fastest, probably more like 2 years. But then it can start to snowball pretty quickly. And by year 5, you might have 15 million in retail, but you've also got all this data you've gotten from these big proprietary systems from like Walmart and Home Depot. You fed that back into Amazon, and your Amazon's improved, right? And you've got more named search. So your cost of acquisition's gone down because people are searching for your brand name because they saw it in Home Depot and they want to get it on Amazon. Now you got to subscribe and save, whatever. So you get more enterprise value. And, I work with brands to help them exit. I have a relationship with an M&A firm, and brands that are omnichannel, 1 to 2x higher multiples than brands that are purely Amazon or purely online. So I actually think that's a perfectly reasonable hope I think of Amazon when you're doing well, I think of it as a product. And then when you want to be a brand, like with a capital B, you have to be everywhere. You have to be everywhere the consumer is. So yeah, that's a good dream. That's one of the good reasons to do it is go for the 9-figure sales and the big exit, but just know it's going to take years. It's not going to be, and not like 2 years. It's going to take like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, even 10 years. But, you just put yourself in the position to get lucky and do everything right. And before you know it, you start to snowball. Your economies of scale are up. So your margins are up, and, you have a bad Amazon quarter. It suddenly doesn't hurt as bad because you're more diversified. There are a lot of benefits to it, but patience. I would preach patience.
Hey, Kevin King and Norm Farrar here. If you've been enjoying this episode of Marketing Misfits, thanks for listening this far. Continue listening. We got some more valuable stuff coming up. Be sure to hit that subscribe button if you're listening to this on your favorite podcast player, or if you're watching this on YouTube or Spotify, make sure you subscribe to our channel because you don't want to miss a single episode of the Marketing Misfits. Have you subscribed yet, Norm?
Well, this is an old guy alert. Should I subscribe to my own podcast?
Yeah, but what if you forget to show up one time and it's just me on here? You're not going to know what I say.
I'll buy you a beard and you can sit in my chair too. And you can go back and forth with one another. Yikes! But that being said, don't forget to subscribe, share it. Oh, and if you really like this content, somewhere up there's a banner. Click on it and you'll go to another episode of the Marketing Misfits.
Make sure you don't miss a single episode because you don't want to be like Norm.
Oh.
So if I'm an Amazon seller and I'm interested in getting retail and I come to you to help me out, how does that work? Do you take a percentage? Do you take a flat fee? How does that work?
Yeah, usually, sometimes it's just advice. I give advice for free. That's you get at least an hour, but usually I help them assess. I'll do like a market scoping project. Like, does it even make sense for you to go to retail? Like we talked at the very beginning, like what are the attributes of your product? Are you differentiated? I'm going to go in all these stores and take pictures and take all this data down and share it with you and show you where I think you fit. And if it looks viable, then usually I'll help outline a sales plan and a forecast and a model of like, all right, if we went after these 5 retailers or we went mom and pops, like after year 1, we might see this much in revenue at this much margin, and here's how we grow. And then, if people want to go forward, then they can retain me, monthly fee on as like their fractional VP of sales and marketing. Essentially, what are all the things you need operationally to execute, to actually get to market, to get my packaging right, get my 3PL set up and everything. And I'll come in and I'll do that for them, or whatever they need. Some of them have resources for it. So they say, all right, I only need you for these 3 projects. So we'll do 3 months. Or they say, Mike, I don't have anybody. I need you to do everything. Stay with me for a year and just get me going, get my first sales, get me equipped, get me all the relationships with brokers, help me hire a salesperson on your way out. And so I'll work with people that way as well.
Very good.
Awesome.
Well, I think we're at the top of the hour, and well, let me talk to our misfit. At the end of every podcast, we always ask our misfit, do they know a misfit?
I do. Yeah, I know a guy. His name's Sean Perry. Worked with him at Thrazio. He's a mad marketing genius. He's got a social media marketing company called Launchwild now. You're definitely going to want to talk to this guy.
Perfect. All right.
How do people find out about you at Crossover Strategies? What do they do?
You can go to my website, crossstratinc.com. You can follow me on LinkedIn. I'm always posting into the void with retail tips. Maybe someone will read them one day. But yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn. Go to my website, crossstratinc.com. And yeah, feel free to reach out. My number, email's on there. I'm happy to talk to anyone who's interested in retail.
And we'll make sure that gets into the show notes as well. All right, Mike. Well, thanks for coming on the show today. We really appreciate it. I hope everybody learned a little bit more about retail. It's not dead. It might smell a little funny, but it's there and you can make a lot of money with it, right?
It's not going anywhere. It's changing. It'll keep changing, but people like to leave their house still. So there will be stores.
Yep.
All right, Mike.
Thanks,
we'll
Mike.
talk to you soon.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Hey, I did my job again.
You hit the button. You're getting really good at this.
Damn right.
You're getting you got a new job. I know you could put that on your LinkedIn profile now.
Yes.
Button pusher, StreamYard button pusher.
When I was a kid in kindergarten, they asked me what I wanted to do for the rest of my life, and I said I wanted to be the person that stuffed olives with pimentos.
Oh man. I probably said something like, I want to be the guy that's the taste tester in the chocolate factory or something like that. Or the ice cream store or something. I don't know.
Now we're talking.
Yeah, but retail is something I think a lot of people overlook. It is a different animal. It's a different beast. You got to get your mindset a little bit differently, and that's I think two things scare people. One is that mindset, and one is that is the money. I think those
absolutely.
The two things that actually scare off people that are doing e-commerce from actually dabbling. And he gave some really good, Mike said really good. A lot of people think of it as, I need to get in Walmart or Target. And you hear these big glamour stories of people going in there and crushing it. But going small, going local, like he said, just go down to get 3 or 4. I remember I did this with my dog bowls, my slow feed dog bowls. I went to 3 pet stores here locally and actually got them to carry them. I just gave them to them on consignment. I didn't even tell them that you got to pay me for them. I said, let me give you 5 of them. Let's see what happens. Yeah. And then as soon as they sell, you can pay me. And I went into a pet boarding facility and did the same thing with them. And you get feedback and you get ideas and you see how it works, and start there and then grow up into the big retailers. I think that's a really smart strategy and really, really good advice from Mike.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just trying to convince the brands or the micro brands on Amazon that it's viable. Like, you can do it. But I think that's it for today, my friend.
I think so. And just one other thing on that, I just thought about local influencers. A lot of us on Amazon, we're trying to get these bigger influencers that are going out on TikTok all over the place. But there's a lot of local newsletters, local influencers, local people that if they will recommend you, like, hey, did you know that Tom's Market over here is carrying this lip balm now that's amazing. I went in there and did this. And you can start with little PR press releases aimed locally where they're starving for this kind of stuff, and then just snowball that up. So lots of good ideas out of this. But that's why we do this Marketing Misfits podcast, because we try to help you like share our experiences, Norm and I's experiences, because we're old guys and we've done a few of these things, as well as bring on amazing guests like Mike today to actually share their expertise and with you. If you like this episode, be sure to forward it to someone. Maybe you know somebody wants to get into retail. Send them a link to this episode so they can check it out, or go watch it yourself on YouTube or Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you like it to listen to podcasts, because every single Tuesday, Norm and I are right here for you, actually delivering you another amazing episode of Marketing Misfits. You can always find out what's going on at marketingmisfits.co, marketingmisfits.co. And we have a new channel now doing some sort of like really short, if you just got a few seconds, you just want to get some really cool actionable tactics. How do they do that, Norm?
All they have to do is go to Marketing Misfits clips, and they'll get a series of nuggets, just like 2-3 minutes max. And we take them out of every episode. Like this one here, you'll probably have 4 or 5 tips that you can check out if you just want to go there and quickly grab some information. The other thing we should talk about, Kevin, just quickly, is we've got an incredible event coming up in Tampa. It's if you want to check more information, it's on Collective Minds with an S Society, collectivemindsociety.com. And we've got a bunch of people on the waiting list. All you have to do is check it out. If you're interested in coming out to the CMS3, it's a cigar event in Tampa, Florida. You can join us. All you have to do is click the wait list and give us your email.
That's right. And otherwise, if we don't see you there come November, more information on that coming soon. We'll see you again next Tuesday. And I'll see you again next Tuesday, Norm.
I guess you will.
I got to see you again. Damn.
Yep. Bring me cookies.
I'll bring cookies and ice cream.
All right. See you, everyone.
All right. Take care.
Bye.